there's been a lot of shenanigans during the pandemic and a lot of fraud, and I've been fighting this since day one. But basically, I came across, well, everybody came across an overtly fraudulent piece of research that targeted unvaccinated individuals and scapegoated them. And basically, I knew right then and there I had to do my best to take it down. So basically, my book dispels the pandemic of the unvaccinated narrative. It shows that it's purely political and that it was propped up by fraudulent science. And it focuses on a particular case of scientific fraud that was committed by University of Toronto professors. The main author of the scientific research was David Fisman. He has basically been Canada's frontman for pandemic modeling. He is a tenured professor at the University of Toronto. He's also a physician. And he has advised all levels of government, from municipal to provincial to federal, during the pandemic. And basically what happened with their study was that when the pandemic, when it was shown that the pandemic of the unvaccinated narrative was false, that it completely broke down, this was after Omicron, the researchers at the University of Toronto basically concocted a model that simulated fake data to show that unvaccinated people had higher incident rates than vaccinated individuals, and as such were a disproportionate risk to others. And then they tried to pass off their fake data and their fake results as a true reflection of reality, even though official Government of Ontario data showed basically the opposite. And then from there was a big media frenzy warning everybody of the risks of merely hanging out with the unvaccinated.
Well, yeah, and that's part of what really got to me was this social division that they sowed with this agenda. I mean, not just the study, but the other people who followed up on it. I mean, the vaccinations were initially sold at least with the case being made that this is going to prevent transmission. And we found out pretty quickly once they were being applied, whatever, I mean, we can debate the benefits or whether they reduce symptoms or not or whatever, but they did not have any impact on the transmissibility of that, which should have, with rational, moral people, said, well, we can't keep yelling at people that they're putting everybody else at risk or in danger, and we shouldn't be trying to segregate people or pressure people saying you're going to kill my grandmama if you don't get vaccinated, because the vaccines did nothing to stop the transmission. Right there, the narrative should have changed, but instead they doubled down.
Yeah, they doubled down on it because it's a real problem for the government if it doesn't curtail transmission. Mandates don't make sense. The mandates don't make sense. The passports don't make sense. The travel restriction, nothing they did makes sense when it comes to the restrictions they put in place. So they're doing everything they can to double down. Even now, they've doubled down on that narrative. They've never admitted they were wrong, and they're still saying the same thing.
And it's been difficult to get those discussions out. Like when we were doing our productions at that time, if I mentioned the word vaccine on YouTube, we'd be punted off the channel. We could, if we wanted to maintain our ability to keep broadcasting, it was a no-go area for us. We had to talk around in circles to avoid the algorithms. It was just brutal. Like, why were they so afraid of discourse on what should be such an important issue?
Well, when it comes to transmission, they've basically set things up, I believe, to bring in mandates in the future. And so they don't want to back down on their narrative. And what happened with the Fisman study is Fisman and his colleagues, they basically committed an overt textbook case of scientific fraud to prop up these mandates and restrictions. And the issue is that when I tried to get the paper retracted, instead of admitting there was a problem, the journal, the Canadian Medical Association journal, would not retract the article, even though dozens of scientists rebuked the findings. The University of Toronto backed it. The Canadian Institutes of Health Research, they're standing by it. So now you have that top institutions are basically complicit in this fraud, which makes it really bad for them because it is provable. And when you show that institutions are willing to commit fraud to scapegoat a segment of the population, then that segment requires protections. And basically, that's what I'm trying to do with this book is force protections for, based on vaccine choice and medical choice.